Hey guys, thanks for watching. I've got a video for you today that friends of mine have told me, don't post this. You don't want people to know that you shot a bear and that you wounded the bear and you never recovered the bear. And I understand why they said that, and I think the same way also. I really don't want to publish this, but I'm going to do that because I have a feeling that maybe there might be a person out there that has a Ravin R-10 with or a crossbow with a scope on it that, like mine does, that could be part of the issue. And by that I mean could be part of the reason why I never did harvest this bear, but I did wound it. And I have video to show you that you can see how this went down and make your own determination of what you think about it. I am going to put something, I don't know how to do this yet, I'll have to figure it out, in the narrative below that you can click on that and go directly to the actual shot of the bear. But I'm also going to put it right here so that you can see it, and then you can also figure out what your thoughts are on why all this happened. And you can say, well, you just didn't do a good enough job tracking this thing. Well, okay, hear me out. And I'm going to tell you the story of my bear hunt for 2022. Greetings. Today is September 7th, 2022, and it is the very first day of the 2022 Wisconsin bear hunt. I am what's called a sitter. So this week, for the next 7 days, anyone that's sitting over a pile of bait can hunt bear over it. The people with the dogs that are hunting cannot. Then the next 2 weeks, I believe it's all of us. And then the last week of the season, it's just the people with the dogs. So it's about 20 minutes to 5. I hope to be out in my elevated ground blind, I guess you would call it, but it's not on the ground anymore. It's about 12 feet high, and I'll be out there about 5 o'clock and hopefully see some action at daybreak. Keep you posted. Hey guys, it's a little bit after 7 o'clock, and it's opening day. I shot a bear. Decent size. I think it's going to be a decent sized bear. I had to take it. After I shot it, it took off running past Caden's camp, or Carter's camp, and then it went up to the end of the circle here and then out into the woods. And I just saw it a couple minutes ago. It was still kind of right out off Carter's camp. So I've got the video on my Tachycam, the shot, but this thing had scoped in on me. It was looking right at me, so I got one. Back in April, the end of April, when they first started allowing bear hunters to go out and bait, I think that was that day that I went out there and baited. I mean, I got started when they said I could. I followed the law. Wisconsin law is that you have to have one permit, or one point. You can buy 1 point per year, and then the zone that you want to hunt in may be very popular, which the one I'm hunting in was the most popular in the state because I own land there, 40 acres. So I had been buying a point every year for 8 years because that's how many points it takes to actually get a permit to hunt bear. So I'm 66. I started this process when I was 58. And if I do it again, it'll probably be another 8 points. I'll be 74 before I can hunt bear again on my own property. Okay, fine. So I put out this bear bait, and I was seeing a lot of bears. I was seeing small bears, like they weren't cubs, but they were small. I was seeing medium-sized bears where, you know what, maybe I'm going to hold out for the big bear. I'm not going to shoot this. And then I was seeing some what I thought were big bears. And I was very encouraged. I mean, I had more than one stand, so I could be in 2 or 3 different places if I wanted to. So I was monitoring those bear baits, and depending on which one was going to be the most productive, that's the one I was going to go to. At any rate, I picked a spot. Opening day came, and it was, I think it was just after 7 a.m. And I think bear hunting had been open for an hour. Don't quote me on any of this, and you can look up those statutes or the law or the times if you want, but this is how I remember it happening. It could be just a tad bit different, but this is how I remember it happening. I was tired. I remember having my head down, and then I remember looking up, and there outside of my blind, I'm up in the air looking down, a bear was staring at me. And in my opinion, it was a good-sized bear. So later to find out from somebody that watched the video that does this not for a living but part-time, they actually are a registered licensed guide. The guy looked at it and said, oh, that's a 300-plus pound bear. Wow, great. At any rate, I'm looking at this bear. It's looking at me. It sees me. It knows I'm there. And it decides, you know what? I'm gonna take off. It turns, offers a perfect broadside shot. Perfect. And at only about 12 to 15 yards, I'm going to say 15. Now my bow was sighted in for 20, 30, 40, 50. Once you sight this bow in, then the reticle in the scope has the yardage and the dots on it. Typically, if you're holding steady and your breathing's right and you fire this, it's going to go right where you're aiming. And I had this thing sighted in. It was brand new string. I put that 20-yard dot on that bear just above the left shoulder. And I'm going to play that video for you now and let you see exactly where that bolt went because it had a lighted knock on it. Now, most people, when they saw this video, they immediately told me, this is where I don't want to get you confused, but I had the video on my phone and I showed friends and they said, oh, what a good shot. You know, that was perfect. Well, I never did find this bear. I'll get into that in a minute. But it really wasn't a bad shot, but it wasn't good enough. It actually was too low. And I realized that we're talking, the arrow is going through from up here in the shoulder, coming out down here, maybe below the shoulder, but the bolt went all the way through. The bear took a hit. You can see it. It ended up getting up and running. You could see that. I waited probably 5 to 10 minutes. I wasn't going to wait much longer. I was so excited about it. Got down, started looking for it, found some blood, not much, but some, right where the bear was shot. Then I walked the path that it took, and when it ran, and I couldn't find it. He crossed over somewhere up here. He came running down this road, and then when he got to about here, he headed that way. Almost looks like there's a path right there. Well, I've been looking for this bear for about an hour now. The shot was too low. It was only 16 yards out from the target, from the bear. And I'm not used to shooting that close. I should have aimed a lot higher. But I think it spotted me, and I was gonna have to take my shot, and I just upped the bow and bang, shot. I couldn't find a blood trail. So I kept going to where I thought that I lost it. I mean, did I miss it? I couldn't find a blood trail. I went back and called a friend. He has a dog service that he hunts with dogs. And I'm not going to get into, arguing about that or dispute about that. I personally will not hunt with a dog treeing a bear. I just don't see the sport in it. What I did was month after month, I ended up going and baiting. And then when it came time to harvest a bear, I was sitting in the stand for 93 hours throughout the bear season. Every time I'd go out, I'd write down how many hours I was there, and it was 93 hours. However, this bear showed up on opening day. So an hour after the season opened, there it was. At any rate, I went back and talked to this friend of mine, and he said, I'll help you. So in the time it took for him to get over to my place, which was over an hour, I went back out and looked for that blood trail, and I found it. I finally found some blood. There's quite a bit of blood here. So it looks like it's heading in this direction. I started following that blood trail, and at some point, that bear must have laid down and bled so much that the blood was pooled, and it was starting to clot. That looks like a paw print. I think he went back into the marsh. I'm certain of it. Here's another spot where he stopped. A lot of blood going in that direction. It got up and kept going, and it ended up walking right underneath a tree stand that I had on a tree there, and it kept going over to the bear bait that it had just come from. And the reason I know that is because now that bear bait was tipped over and the bait was eaten. Then it went past that, and it kept on going down to a ravine right where my property sort of ends. At the bottom of the ravine, it starts to taper off and level out again, but that's a swamp. And the definition of a swamp, in my mind, is it's not a marsh where you have short grass or grass that you have water in. My swamp that I'm defining here it's got a lot of tall trees, a lot of water, and trees that are tipped over because of the water. And then it has grass in between the trees, but it has these like clumps of dirt that keep coming up everywhere. So you really don't have a level walking plane. You have to step on these piles of dirt with grass on them or in between them where the water is. So it made it difficult to track anything. but I tracked it.
Okay, look at all this blood. There's even flies around it. Goes this way. A lot more blood. Goes across this log. Blood there. Goes underneath there. Comes out. Blood right there. And then after that, it disappears. Cannot find another drop of blood anywhere around here.
I tracked it for over 350 yards. That's about, I think it's about a quarter of a mile. And I did it in a way that, you know, I kept in mind that it might backtrack, that the animal might backtrack. But I kept on going until finally I got to the end of the blood in that swamp where I couldn't find it anymore. I couldn't find any tracks. I couldn't find broken twigs. I couldn't find any blood anywhere. And that was it. And so I was looking in the trees. I was looking under the trees because they're tipped over and there's cavities that the bear could hide in. You know, thinking to myself, man, I hope this thing doesn't come out from underneath one of these things and grab me because it's wounded. Well, I had a weapon with me, but a sidearm. But you know what? I'm still looking for this thing, right? I have a responsibility to do that, and that's what I was doing. So my friend and I couldn't find this thing. We looked for hours. I went back to the road, called another friend who brought him and his wife over, who's a bear hunter also, and deer hunter. And we went back out there and went even deeper and deeper into this swamp. We couldn't find anything. We even went in so far as to that we got lost coming out. We didn't, hey, I think we're supposed to go this way. No, I think we're supposed to go this way. Well, we waited until traffic went by on a road, a quarter of a mile away and realized that we needed to go in that direction. And when we did, we came out someplace we had no idea that that's where we would come out. We looked. So that was pretty much the end of that. And the reason I'm telling you all this to begin with, my friends say don't air the video, don't tell people that you shot a bear and didn't find it. But I'm doing this because there might be somebody out there like me, and I totally agree that, you know what, I have sometimes my senior moments, and I do things that, I'm like thinking to myself, how could I have done that? Or I forgot that, or what was I thinking, Anyway, I guess I'm telling you all this because there's somebody out there maybe that has one of these scopes that is just like the one I had on my crossbow. And that scope had a lot to do with why all this happened. Now, here's what happened. So it was all sighted in, and I'm up in the stand, take my shot, and I don't hit it where I'm supposed to hit it. Didn't think anything of it. The bolt went through it. But then days later, because I'm hunting, I have a turkey permit, I have a buck permit, and I have a bear permit, all which can be taken with my bow. So nothing's going on after I missed that bear except I see this turkey. So this turkey's coming in. I take a shot, and I missed it. So I'm thinking, well, you know what? That's just me. I'm a bad shot when it comes to this. Not that I really think that. I think I'm a pretty good shot. But it happened. So I'm thinking it has to be me. Well, days go by. Another turkey comes in. Take another shot. Missed it again. Now I'm thinking there's got to be something going on here. I took the target that I used to sight the bow in, which is about 2 feet wide, 2 feet high, bullseye in the center, and then bullseyes around it. Set it out at 20 yards, went up in the tree stand, fired, and the bolt went under the target. And I couldn't believe that. I got down, I looked, I pulled it out of the dirt, and I'm thinking to myself, this is impossible. And then I started looking at other reasons why this could have happened. And in looking at the bow and the scope, I had turned a dial on the scope that made all the difference in the world as far as my aiming point. Now I'm going to break that down a little bit. On a regular scope, you have kind of like that eye adjustment piece where you can focus whatever your vision's like. You can get clarity on that. Then the next ring on a regular scope is, your magnification, 4 to 16, whatever. You can do that. And then down on the objective end, you can make those adjustments. I'm not going to get into that. But on the scope on this Ravin R-10, which I'm not complaining about it, it's just that you need to know what you're doing. And I did know what I was doing, but I didn't think about it. And I ended up shooting myself in the foot, so to speak. The second ring, not the eye ring, but the second ring is the speed of your bolt. So my bow is rated for 400 feet per second. So there's a 400 on that dial. Then you can turn it and it goes all the way down to 100 and something. I think it's 125, but I don't remember. Well, at some point in time after sighting this in, which it was right on, I ended up looking through that and turning what I was probably thinking was the magnification. I was turning that dial, and I ended up leaving it on like 125, somewhere in that vicinity. Well, it's supposed to be on 400 and it's on 125. That means that it's going to adjust in that reticle my aiming point, even though it doesn't change in the reticle, it changes where the arrow is going to end up landing. And so that's what I must have done. I must have moved that dial in a senior moment and left it there thinking, oh, it's not really magnifying anything. Well, I can't blame it on anything else. But I did want to just say one more thing, and then that'll be the end of it. I really did try to find this bear, and I really do think that, this might help somebody someday. A lot of us have been hunting deer and other, animals that we harvest and eat. And you sometimes don't get what you're after. You end up hitting it and it doesn't die, or you can't find it. That's happened to me once before with a deer. But it was on my end, the worst shot probably I ever made. And it was a close shot. And it was from an elevated blind. So my blind is 12 feet off the ground at foot and about 15 off the ground when it comes to the end of the muzzle of a rifle, shotgun, or a crossbow. So there has to be some accountability there. You have to aim a little higher so that the bolt goes all the way through instead of lower where it just nicks it. I knew all that. I aimed that way, but the bolt didn't do what I expected it to do. So I know you're going to have a lot of comments. I know you're going to say something, and I want you to know that I realize, again, I made a mistake, and it's unfortunate. I'm not going to stop hunting because of it. Hopefully, it'll work out the way I expect it to. Someone will end up learning from this. God bless. Be safe. How discouraging. I shoot a bear. It's almost 2 hours later, and I still haven't found it. At first, there was a drop of blood at the place that I shot it, and then I actually located a blood trail where it actually laid down and bled quite a bit. Got up, kept going, laid down again somewhere, got up, kept going, and I would say it has traveled not quite a quarter of a mile, but now it's into a swamp. It's my neighbor's property adjacent mine. I'm not sure how far in. I kind of lost the blood trail right there. So I've got a friend coming over, but you never know. May not find it. I'm hoping we do. I'd hate to see something like that go to waste.